Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
Revolution.
First, what is a revolution?
Revolution is the solution, hey.
The motive of a revolution.
Well, now,
The objective of a revolution.
be televised.
And the result of a revolution. And the methods used in a revolution.
I know you know. Put my gun away. Never gonna put my gun away. Put my gun away. See that might be better run away.
This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
Hello, Internet. Hope everybody is having a fantastic Thursday evening. Good to see all of you on this random Thursday stream. I expected to do an episode last night, but I got stuck at a job site for way longer than I would have liked to be there. I actually got a call from my boss like a half hour before the show started. He talked to me all the way up until showtime. So, yeah, I might be a little underprepared for this show, but just slightly. So, again, thank you all for being here, especially you new folks. There's quite a few new folks here at the Cali Based show, and I appreciate you all being here. Have been putting up a lot more content lately, trying to feed the YouTube beast, if you will, and it's been paying off. So, thank you guys all for being here, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. I think I might make some people angry tonight. I should preface with saying there's nobody that dislikes Gavin Newsom more than myself. Also, let me know, you guys, somebody in the chat, let me know if my audio is good. I was tinkering with my Rodecaster earlier, and I hope I didn't break it. So, yeah, let me know if my audio is good. Somebody in the chat. Again, nobody dislikes Gavin Newsom more than myself, and I don't want anybody to be mistaken for the points that I'm going to make tonight, and that's that I feel that people are underestimating him and dismissing him for his wantingness to be president of this country, even though he hasn't announced that he's running yet. It's pretty obvious that he is. He's been campaigning for the last, I don't know, year already. It seems like he's never in California doing his actual job, but people are underestimating him. And Trump has, I should also say I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Republican. And yes, I voted for Trump and I have conservative values. I actually think I'm more conservative than a lot of Republicans, but that does not mean that I am just going to fall in lockstep with everything that Trump's doing. In fact, I have been nothing but disappointed with Trump. The only thing that I've been pleased with him about is shutting down the border. Everything else I have been disappointed with Trump about, literally everything. And one of the primary reasons that I voted for him is that he didn't start any new wars in his first term. And here we are at war with Iran. And I'm not pleased about it at all. The Epstein files stuff. He's come out recently and said some other things that are just highly disappointing. And he is handing Gavin Newsom a lot of political footballs. Sage of Echoes, nice to see you, homie. Haven't seen you in a while. You should go running again soon. Yes, Trump is fumbling the ball and Gavin is picking it up and running with it in more ways than one. And I'm going to cover them. The mishandling of the Epstein files, he's been running with that. Gavin, he's been, using that as a political football as much as possible and taking little cheap shots at Trump. And I think most people should be able to agree that at the very least, Trump mishandled the Epstein files. At the worst, it's been a full-scale cover-up. But that's giving Gavin Newsom ammo. This whole war with Iran stuff and seemingly doing anything that Israel demands is also giving Gavin Newsom ammo. And I'll get into that in a second. But the next thing is going to be gas prices. Gas prices in California are 100% Gavin Newsom and California Democrats' fault. I talk about it probably every episode, the cap and trade stuff, the gas taxes per gallon. We pay like an extra $1.40 per gallon on top of what the regular price would be. And then you have the refinery stuff, California having their own special regulations for California with our own special blends, and it's made refineries shut down and move out and say it's just not profitable for us to run a refinery in California. So all of these things have led to skyrocketing gas prices in California. Well, this war with Iran likely is not going to help gas prices nationwide, at least in the short term, especially if they shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And with refineries like in, I can't remember what refinery in the Middle East that I saw on fire today, but it seems that production's going to drop, trade routes are going to be blocked, and gas prices could very likely skyrocket in the United States. And Gavin's using that, and it's infuriating because it's such gaslighting. Like I said, gas prices in California are insanely high, but if they spike nationwide, Gavin's going to be able to point to Trump and say, look what Trump did to gas prices. And we all know he's full of shit, but there's lots of people that are going to buy it and say, yeah, look what Trump did to gas prices. And unfortunately, he's not even going to be completely wrong, because if this war with Iran does cause gas prices to spike nationwide, granted, the price spikes in California would be on top of Gavin Newsom's price spikes, but he's going to be able to sidestep that and gaslight everybody and point the blame at Trump, whether he's correct or not. So I also think people are underestimating how charismatic and smart he is. People don't think that he's smart for some reason, even though he said I got a 960 IQ, just like you guys. I'm black too, is what he said essentially on stage. But I think people are underestimating his political chops. In addition to all of that, even though there's people saying that there's a 90% approval rating of Trump amongst Republicans right now, I think that is bullshit. I think a ton of the MAGA base is furious with Trump. And I think the people that were once never Trump, Bush era neocons, have now captured the base and said that we are the MAGA base now. People that, like Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Ted Cruz, those type guys, they, to me, represent the Bush era neocon, warmongering, status quo Republican Party of old. And they have somehow taken over MAGA. And then the disaffected liberals, independents, libertarians, anti-war, pro-free speech that have voted for Trump are very disappointed. And I think there's a large faction of MAGA that is just going to stay home. So not that they're going to vote for Democrats, even though Nick Fuentes says he's going to. A lot of people are just going to stay home in the next election if somehow Trump doesn't turn this around in the next 3 years. But I mean, who knows? This war could last that whole time. So all these things together, I think, are going to give Gavin Newsom a running start and a boost in the polls. And if he can get past the primaries, who knows who he's going to be up against, because we haven't even gotten to the midterms yet. But I think there should be valid concern for everybody that fears a Gavin Newsom presidency, like I do, that lots of the MAGA base is going to stay home during the next election and say, you guys can figure it out, because we're done participating in this program. So we'll get right into it. We'll go to some Gavin Newsom clips here. Drop a comment in the chat, drop a comment, give the show a like, all that good stuff. All right, let's get right into it, shall we? Because it's hard for me to listen to Gavin Newsom talking, but we're gonna have to get through some Gavin Newsom clips because there's just too much shit to talk about, even though I hate listening to his voice. So let's get right into it. So this is from Raz Saber. Says Newsom has gone full Mamdani. He says the United States is being pushed by Israel into a position where it may have to reconsider its military support. And now he's echoing the claim that Israel is an apartheid state. The Democrat Party is dead. I argue the exact contrary. The exact contrary. Let's listen to this clip and then I'll explain why I think he is completely wrong about the Democrats.
And a lot of Democrats have looked at the Netanyahu regime and felt like, you know what, we don't like the trajectory he's on. It's time to rethink the U.S. relationship with Israel, especially military support.
Well,
Where do you
Bibi's
stand?
making that easy right now. Let's talk about that. But the issue of Bibi is interesting because he's got his own domestic issues. He's trying to stay out of jail. He's got an election coming up. He's potentially on the ropes. He's got folks, the hard line, that want to annex the West Bank. I mean, Freeman and others are talking about it appropriately, sort of an apartheid state. They couldn't even, I mean, we're talking about regime change. For 2 years, they haven't even been able to solve the Hamas question in Israel. So this is, I mean, you know, I want to be careful here, but, you know, in so many ways, that influence in the context of the conversation of where Trump ultimately landed on this is pretty damn self-evident. And so Rubio may have been saying something else in the context of what he ultimately said in terms of being sort of pulled into some of these things. But I will say this, didn't surprise me in this context. I don't know if it was Napoleon or whoever said about a sword, the only thing you can't use a sword for is sitting on it. And when you bring 2 aircraft carriers out there and you assemble the kind of military force that Trump did over the last few weeks, it didn't surprise me ultimately they moved that direction.
Do you think?
I hate to agree with Gavin Newsom, but it's hard for me to actually argue with anything he said there. And I'll keep playing the clip because I have more to add after this.
I think looking down the road that the United States should consider maybe, you know, rethinking our military support for Israel?
It breaks my heart because the current leadership in Israel is walking us down that path where I don't think you have a choice but that consideration. I mean, to say this is in America's interest at a time when affordability is at crisis levels, where you had an administration who literally got elected saying this is exactly the opposite of what they would ever consider doing. The fact that we are in this now regional war, all these proxies, the fact that we, you know, and all the grift and the corruption that's also marks a huge part of this. And that's a real conversation we need to have, this board of peace. And the peace that the Witkoff family is getting, and the peace that Kushner is getting, and the peace that Trump Jr. is getting.
All right. So the most important thing that Gavin said right there is that this war isn't in America's interest. And a lot of the America First folk, that's exactly what we've been saying the whole time, that war with Iran is not in America's interest. Iran does not pose any sort of threat to the mainland United States. They pose a threat to Israel. And as Marco Rubio said, what he's referencing is Marco Rubio said that essentially our hand was forced and we had to strike them first because we knew Israel was going to strike Iran and Iran was going to strike our bases back. So we had to be preemptive. A preemptive defensive position is what he said he took. Gavin Newsom taking this stance right now is a big deal, is a really big deal. First of all, amongst Democrats, he's not even popular. But what's really not popular amongst Democrats is what's been happening in Gaza lately. And Gavin mentioning that Israel seems to be an apartheid state and talking about how maybe we should question the military funding support that we give them, that's going to earn major points among Democrats. And it's actually going to earn points amongst America Firsters. May not get people to vote for him. In fact, like on the right, America First types. But as Nick Fuentes already said, he's going to vote Democrat in the midterms. I don't know if he's seen this clip, but I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask right now. Is Gavin courting the Groypers? Is Gavin courting the America First Groyper movement? Because that's the opportunity that he's being presented with right now. I mean, he has been handed a very powerful political football, and he seems to be using it and using it well. Again, I can't stand Gavin Newsom. I will go so far as to say I hate him. I don't hate very many people at all. Gavin Newsom is one of them. I think he has destroyed huge aspects of California. He's destroyed the middle class. He makes it impossible to get ahead and barely possible to just stay afloat as a middle-class Californian. And the only reason we're staying here is because of how much we love California, not the government, the geographical location, California, with how much beauty it is, how much beauty there is, how perfect the weather is. And there is still, despite Gavin Newsom, a lot of opportunity here. So I say all that just to preface that I do not support Gavin Newsom. I will never vote for Gavin Newsom. But he's being handed a political football right now, and he's using it, and he's using it well. So you could disagree with me on that, but I think this Iran war thing specifically and the mishandling of the Epstein files is giving Gavin Newsom a lot of ammo, and it could gain him a lot of points in the polls. So we'll keep going here. Then you have someone on the Democrat side that's taking the opposite stance. You've got John Fetterman. So this is from Eyal Yacobi. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. He's a very pro-Israel person. He says, breaking, Senator Fetterman rips into Gavin Newsom over his comments on Israel. And we'll just play the clip.
And that's another truth here about the Democratic Party. We're coming more and more anti-Israel. You know, Governor Newsom announced, now he just described Israel as an apartheid state. I mean, that's a talking point of the fringe of my party.
Is it though? I mean, let's really look at Israel from that, through that lens. Is Israel an apartheid state? Let's ask that question. So to answer it, what do we have to look at? We have to look at Gaza. We have to look at the West Bank. Does anyone in Gaza have a vote? Do they get to vote on anything that happens in Israel? Is Gaza part of Israel? No. Well, everything that goes in and out of Gaza is controlled. They're not allowed to have a vote. They don't have any sort of independence or liberty. You have to say that Gaza is part of Israel that, I mean, a lot of people would describe it as an open air prison. How is it not an apartheid state? If Gaza isn't a part of Israel, then what is it? Is it its own independent nation? Does it have a government? Well, that was Hamas. They were elected. Yeah, but even before October 7th, what type of power did Hamas have? So is it fair to call Israel an apartheid state? And I have this argument with my buddy Eric all the time. And I would agree that Israel is an apartheid state. So you guys know where I stand on that.
And that's profoundly disappointing. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, overall, I mean, he might be more liberal, but I never thought he would actually go that way and would describe our strong special ally, you know, the only nation in that region that lives the kind of values that they would live like in California.
Right. Unless you're in Gaza.
I've been in Israel. Tel Aviv is like San Diego version of Israel. And now you just described that as apartheid state. I mean, that's a betrayal of the moral clarity.
How? I would love to hear Fetterman explain how Gaza isn't an apartheid portion of Israel. Someone explain it to me. How is it not an apartheid state?
And I can't imagine what he thinks that's the right side of history. And that's another truth.
So Fetterman talks about this anti-Israel sentiment that's spreading throughout the Democrat Party. It's not just spreading throughout the Democrat Party. The whole country and the whole world is becoming very disapproving of what Israel is doing in Gaza and the amount of influence they seemingly have over America's foreign policy. And there's a lot of people on the right. Yes, it's much more heavy on the left, but it's kind of different from the left because the left is just going to support whatever they're told to support. But this isn't just on the left. There's massive growing numbers of people that are looking at Israel and they're like, what the fuck is really going on? Like, what is this really? All right. Is that the end of the clip? Yeah, I think that's the end of the clip. I do not know how to pronounce your name. McCandixifend. How do I say your names? Can you spell it out so I can enunciate it properly? Agree completely. It looks like he's next up. Well, okay. So on the flip side, if Gavin takes this stance, if he takes essentially an anti-Israel stance, it's going to gain him a ton of support amongst Democrats, the people, the voting Democrats. He's going to lose a lot of support of the lobbyists. He's going to lose a lot of funding support. So it's a very interesting line that he's choosing to walk here. We'll see if he backtracks in the future. But I mean, looking at it that way, where you have the Democrat voters and then you have the Democrat funders, Gavin's sort of trying to rebrand as a populist, not a regime establishment candidate, because that's what he is right now. Gavin is an establishment candidate through and through. But taking this stance could help rebrand him as a populist amongst the Democrat base. This is the type of stance that Democrats are looking for. And this is the stance that a lot of America Firsters are looking for, including myself. But I will say, again, I will never vote for Gavin Newsom. But taking this stance is a very powerful stance to take. So we'll keep going here. Israel has attacked us so many times. They were involved in COVID-19 and mRNA. You're trying to get me kicked off of YouTube, huh? That was a comment that I was reading YouTube. I am not necessarily endorsing that comment, nor am I necessarily disagreeing with it. So just take that with a grain of salt there. All right, let's go over to California Post. So Gavin Newsom bets anti-Semitism is the Democrat Party's future. So this is the article from them. So Gavin Newsom, let me share might as well share this. Gavin Newsom endorsed the lie Tuesday that Israel is an apartheid state, a damning sign of where the Democrat Party is heading and how far it's already sunk. At an event promoting his new book, the California governor said Israel critics are appropriately calling it an apartheid state, a knockoff of South Africa's old segregationist regime. This is a lie, one so egregious that may deem it a form of anti-Semitism. Let's see if they explain how Israel is not an apartheid state, or if they just call it a lie and leave it at that. Apartheid South Africa denied blacks the vote and forced them to endure separate hospitals, separate schools, and even separate bathrooms. Do the Palestinians in Gaza have a vote? Arabs, 20% of Israel's population, vote and serve in the government and even in the military, but not in Gaza. There is no segregation whatsoever between Jews and Arabs, unless you're talking about Gaza. Israelis and Palestinians clash in the West Bank, but that's a conflict over boundaries. Oh, they seem to be leaving out a certain region. Newsom's apartheid smear is a blood libel that has spurred anti-Semitic mobs to target Jews and Jewish institutions, often with deadly results, including in his own California. The governor once claimed presidential candidate should be a repairer of the breach, yet he's insisted on widening divisions and adding to the pressure on Jews, one of the country's most vulnerable minorities. At the same event, Newsom said he'd consider ending U.S. military support for Israel, even as Iranian missiles flew through the Israeli skies, aiming to kill civilians across the Jewish state. Well, didn't Benjamin Netanyahu just say that he has a plan to make it so he doesn't need funding from America anymore? So, interesting. All right, we'll finish reading this article. Days before, Newsom repeated a claim that the United States and Israel had bombed a school in Iran without waiting for the facts. We have no idea if Newsom truly... So before I continue, I'm still not positive who hit the school. Israel claims it was a misfired Iranian missile, but I don't know what the truth is. It's still the fog of war, and getting facts during a war is next to impossible. We have no idea if Newsom truly shares Jew hate implied by his apartheid comment. See, this is the type of thing that makes people say, F it, call me anti-Semitism, whatever. If you criticize Israel and what they're doing in Gaza, you are called a Jew hater and anti-Semitic. Asking the question, is Gaza an apartheid state in Israel? Asking that question makes you a Jew hater and anti-Semitic. It's funny because the person that I have this conversation with the most, and a very civil conversation, is my buddy Eric, and he's Jewish, and he doesn't agree with me at all. But he's one of my closest buddies, and he never gets mad at me for taking the stance that I take. So it's very strange how this whole fear of saying anything negative about the Israeli government has silenced people for decades. And now that is ending. People are saying, screw it. You want to call me anti-Semitic? Call me anti-Semitic. I'm questioning whether Israel is an apartheid state. And people are just saying, screw it. Now he trashes Israel because it plays well with the Democrat Party and increasingly follows its radical left-wing fringe. Doesn't just play well with the Democrat Party. The right holds an anti-Semitic fringe too. Oh, here we go. But President Trump has marginalized it. Newsom, the frontrunner for the party's next presidential nomination, has now embraced the far left's anti-Israel extremism, which should disqualify him for the presidency or even the job he holds now. Whether he's a bigot or just a shameless cynic, from here out in the merits, nothing but contempt if he dares to say a word about peace, human rights, or tolerance. See, I hate the position that this is putting me in to defend Gavin Newsom. Like, I hate it. Do not make me defend Gavin Newsom. Let's see what the top comment is here. With the news coming out of California that he signed a bill to allow violent criminals out of prison after only 20 years, like the guy being released now, he has zero chance for ever being president. I disagree. I disagree. Just play commercial in a loop and he doesn't have a chance. And this guy responds to him. He says, in a normal society, your statement would be accurate. We have we have a subspecies called Democrats. They're fully capable of voting this clown into office. This is true. Don't underestimate the level of grooming that has occurred in the education system for decades now. So that's kind of the point. Democrats will rally around Gavin Newsom. Whether he'll be able to get past the primary because the lobbies will go against him because of this anti-Semitism stuff, that's the question. But if Gavin Newsom wins the primary and it's Gavin Newsom versus, say, J.D. Vance, all Democrats will be behind him and they will all vote for him. A lot of people that voted for Trump are going to stay home during that election because they feel betrayed by Trump. So it's not about people switching from, MAGA supporters to voting for Gavin. It's about Gavin being able to rally the entire Democrat base and Republicans staying home. That's what this is all about. If there's a drop in voter turnout for Republicans and MAGA, and Gavin is able to rally the entire Democrat base, which he will be able to, you could very well have a Gavin Newsom president. So that's my argument. You can disagree with me all you want, but I think underestimating him is a very big mistake. And to illustrate the political footballs that he's throwing around, this is from Axios. Says Trump's Iran war gas price spikes. And then he put the little Trump thing down there. It says, I did that, talking about gas prices. And he says, ruh-roh. No pun intended, the gaslighting of Gavin Newsom. Again, gas prices in California are insanely high because of Gavin Newsom. But now he can point at Trump and the Iran war and gas prices spiking nationwide and say, look what Trump did. And he'll be able to pull it off. People will buy it. This isn't about whether you or I agree with Gavin Newsom. It's about whether he'll be able to rally the Democrat base and how many people that voted for Trump are going to stay home. That's what this is all about. So keep going here. Israel. Okay, I already read that. All right, we'll keep going here. And this is from Nick Fuentes. So Nick Fuentes says, I'm voting Democrat in 2026 because white people can play both sides too. The GOP broke every single promise: Epstein file cover-up, regime change war in Iran, and no mass deportations. The GOP must be purged and burned to the ground in 26, hostile takeover in 28. Oh, so he is talking about 28. So, I mean, with what Nick's saying there, coupled with the stance Gavin Newsom is saying, is Nick going to try to rally the Groypers behind Gavin Newsom? I mean, I don't know. And if Gavin Newsom can somehow rebrand as a strong borders president, which would be another lie. California is a border state. We have sanctuary state policies that incentivize people to come here. We do not support border control at a state level in any regard whatsoever. But if he can gaslight and spin the narrative that he is somehow a pro-borders guy, yeah, I think the right is severely underestimating Gavin. And maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe they think that because of what he's done to California that he can't rally the Democrat base. I think they're flat out wrong. And underestimating him is a huge mistake. So yeah, that's that. Keep going here. I got more Gavin Newsom clips to get through. Stage of Echoes. I'm glad you agree with me. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for everything I just said, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for. All right. This is another clip from Gavin Newsom. I think this was on Jimmy Kimmel.
Sometimes I hear people talking about California and I wonder, like, where are they getting this? Where are they getting this?
Well, Fox derangement. I mean, it's 24/7. The California derangement syndrome is through these propaganda networks, focusing on what's wrong every single day. And there's an old adage, you're nothing more than your consistent thoughts. Whatever you focus on, you find more of. And these networks have really honed in on California for one reason. Our success runs completely contra.
No. So Gavin Newsom wants to gaslight everybody and pretend that Gavin Newsom or that California doesn't have massive problems because of Democrat policies, which we do. We have massive problems. The homelessness crisis, the rampant drug use on the streets, the shit and piss in all over the place in many pockets of different cities in California, the unaffordability crisis due to overregulation, the gas prices due to overregulation. These are all because of Democrat policies. But what you saw during the Super Bowl, for example, is tons of people that aren't from California went to San Francisco. And it happened to be right in the middle of a winter heat wave. And everybody's like, look how beautiful it is. And also at the same time, what did San Francisco do in preparation for the Super Bowl? They cleaned it up like Xi Jinping was coming to town to pay a visit with the Chinese Communist Party. So they cleaned up San Francisco. So they're getting the perfect representation of what San Francisco used to be, a glorious city. Like San Francisco, I mean, even still is one of the greatest cities on planet Earth. It's beautiful. The culture, even with all of the leftist crap that's going on right now, I mean, it's still a great place to visit. I mean, I was there yesterday, and I mean, lots of parts of San Francisco are beautiful, but there are pockets of San Francisco and pockets of LA and a lot of Oakland, pockets in Sacramento that are just nobody wants to go there because of their policies. And he's trying to say this is because of California derangement syndrome. He's wrong. There's plenty of things to criticize. At the same time, California is glorious. I live in a magical redwood forest, and I'm a trail runner, and I live in trail heaven, and I love California. I love everything about California except the government and except the radical, psychotic leftists. But I don't want to live anywhere else. So it sucks because he's taking credit for all the things that make California great and acting as if it's because of him. California is great despite Gavin Newsom and the Democrats, not because of him. And he's pointing to all the things like AI and, you know, our agriculture and our manufacturing. All of those things are still doing kind of good despite Gavin Newsom, not because of him. It's impossible to run a business here. Agriculture is suffering because of Democrat policies. And he's trying to take claim to all of the things that are naturally good here. Like the soil in the Central Valley is prime time for growing food. It's like the breadbasket of America. And like he can't take credit for that, but he's actually making agriculture worse through overregulation. Sorry, I'll quit ranting.
To their entire world view. The fact that California is the fourth largest economy in the world.
Here we go.
Has more scientists, engineers, more Nobel laureates.
All of that despite you.
The finest system of higher education, more venture capital than any other state in America.
We got the TMZ tour.
We got TMZ tours.
Not that we don't have problems. So we do have problems.
We have problems, but there's an energy and daring and an entrepreneurialism that defines
It's the best state. It is the best state.
And, you know, it's also, and, you know, this is part of it. It's also the most diverse state. in the United States of America. 27% of this state's foreign born. And that offends these guys.
You know who I want to see debate? I want to see Jimmy Kimmel debate his good friend Adam Carolla, because they are still great friends. Jimmy Kimmel, obviously a brain dead radical leftist, but they hosted the Man Show together, and they're still good friends. They're still both technically comedians. Adam Carolla would rip Jimmy Kimmel apart about California policies and all the ways California has gotten worse. I mean, just look at the fires in the Pacific Palisades and Malibu and how impossible it is to rebuild, on top of the mismanagement of the fire itself. Nothing triggers me more than Gavin Newsom's gaslighting. All right, let's keep going here. Let's go over to Tom Elliott. Governor Gavin Newsom says his abundance agenda will help overregulated states like California reverse their stalled growth. Let's see what he has to say here.
It sounded pretty exact to me.
But
why does it take so long to get things built here? I feel like, is California overregulated? Because it feels like there are a lot of well-meaning laws, rules, etc., that get in the way of building your house, of opening a restaurant. I've experienced this myself.
If Gavin was smart, instead of campaigning throughout the country, he would spend his last year in office as the California governor in focusing his attention on deregulating the housing market, deregulating agriculture, deregulating businesses, and making all of these things be able to flourish more, so he could leave office and say, look what I did to improve California by deregulating. But he's not doing that. He's going on a book tour.
What do we do about that?
No, we need a liberalism that builds, and we have to own that. And I'm very much part of this sort of new nomenclature. We call this abundance agenda, and we've got to reconcile that. We've got to be more focused on time to delivery.
And what are you doing to do that?
Not just rhetoric, not just what we're for. We got to actually deliver and manifest it. That's why this year we did the most significant housing reforms in our state's history. We did something that hadn't been done in decades. We've tried to address land use reforms, what we call secret reforms. We weren't able to get it done. We finally were able to get it done this year in a meaningful way. But this is a meaningful topic for Democrats to recognize. We have to deliver on big and bold things. Trump breaks things. Democrats need to build things, but we have to actually deliver on that promise.
Now, speaking of Trump,
reform.
Why didn't you think to turn that giant valve of water, to turn that on and just have all the water, beautiful water come rushing to put out all the fires last year?
It was that key. I left it in the office. So your daughter was looking at it.
This is my daughter's fault?
Yeah, it was your daughter's fault. I had misplaced the damn key.
Are we rebuilding the city quickly enough? And should we even be rebuilding in places where we know it is very dangerous?
Well, we have to rebuild differently. And speaking of reforms.
So right there, we have to rebuild differently. So what does he mean by that? He means adding new regulations to construction in the areas that burned down, making it more difficult and more expensive to build. So he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth here, talking about how we need to deregulate and we need reform on making it easier for people to build. And then 2 seconds later, he says, "Oh, well, we need to build differently. So what we're going to do there is have a top-down approach requiring different building materials, different, requirements of what vegetation you can have around the area that you're building in." He's infuriating.
28 executive orders I have put into place to radically change the regulatory thickets in the state. So there are no statewide issues as it relates to getting these projects done. You have literally, as of today, 1,258 housing construction projects that are done. A few dozen are already done a year after this fire. You had recovery for the debris removal that just completed itself about 7-8 months ago. So in terms of progress compared to other major disasters, we're well ahead. That said, there are thousands.
So if you listen to Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass talk, everything is going swimmingly in the fire zone in the areas of Pacific Palisades and, the Eaton fire out near Pasadena, and rebuilding, everything's going great. If you talk to the actual people that live there, they're like, no, this is a nightmare. I can't get permits approved. I can't start the rebuilding process. It's like pulling teeth and I can't afford it. So you're going to hear exactly different things from the people that actually live there that are trying to rebuild themselves.
Thousands of people that are still frustrated, and they want us to move faster and much more efficiently. And that's why every day we're pounding the pavement to deliver on that promise. 3,800 permits have been approved, but right now we need the President of the United States to approve a disaster supplemental to support.
Oh, that's the problem. They need more federal dollars, so they have more federal money to fraudulently embezzle that won't actually go to the people trying to rebuild. That's what they need. It's Trump's fault. The Palisades fires are Trump's fault.
Support the people in Palisades and support the folks in Altadena. And he refuses to do that. He refuses to help the people here
This is his
in
book,
Los Angeles.
Young Man in a Hurry. We'll be right back.
I hope his book comes in 2-ply. Oh, okay. That's oh no, we're not done with the Gavin Newsom clips yet. I got more. So yeah, well, I don't think it's actually Gavin Newsom talking here. This is Gavin Newsom on his book tour in San Francisco was speaking, and there's a lady outside kind of putting him on blast wearing a chicken suit. This video is from JJ Smith, I believe.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
What are y'all here for?
Yeah, we're out here in our chicken outfits because Gavin hasn't clarified his policies on whether or not a man is convicted of a crime and he says it's a woman, does he have the right to be in a women's prison? And some of our people in our group volunteer at the prison, and so the women inside are they don't like the fact that there's men in their cells.
So you hear what she said there? She's out there. All these people are there to hear Gavin Newsom talk. And this lady very courageously dresses in a chicken suit and tells everybody, hey, did you know that if a biological man is convicted of a violent crime, sometimes even sexual assault crimes, if they just go and say, hey, I'm a woman, they can be put in a women's prison. Yes, that is a law that Gavin Newsom himself signed. Many people that are there to hear him speak probably aren't even aware of that.
They don't like the fact that men were in their cells.
Yeah, because all that men had to do was say he's a woman.
And they do that?
Yeah, they do that. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a couple of us out here. Hopefully there's more.
Okay.
So that was the bill that passed. Senate Bill 132 allows male inmates self-identified as female in women's prisons.
See your sign?
Hi there. Oh yeah. So we're Democrats.
Let me read this. Allows male inmates
And hear what she said? They're Democrats.
self-ID'd as female into women's prisons, including city or residence. Okay.
What do you think that? What do you think of that idea?
I'm not going to give you my opinion right now, but I'm going to hear you out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Imagine your sister. You have a very beloved sister who gets accused of a horrible crime. She is sent to prison. Her cellmate is a guy named Dana Rivers who he hasn't had any kind of surgeries or anything, and he's a rapist, and he killed a lesbian couple and their son. How would you feel about her sharing a cell with her?
I heard you
about that.
I heard you spill.
Yeah.
So that's especially if you're a Democrat, that's courageous. I mean, and that's what Democrats need more of, is people that vote Democrat that are willing to look at Democrat policies and say, this is wrong. Biological men, violent criminals, convicted violent criminals being put in jail cells with women. So we'll keep going here. As you guys may have heard, so enough Gavin Newsom's talk. I'm sure I'll start ranting about him shortly, but yeah, enough Gavin Newsom talk. So this was big news back on Monday or Tuesday. The Supreme Court actually ruled on something in our favor. So the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 opinion, ruled that California policies that prohibit schools from disclosing a child's gender transition to parents without the child's consent are likely unconstitutional. So you remember, it was actually made illegal for teachers, if they have a student that is saying that they identify as the opposite sex, those teachers aren't allowed to tell the parents. California actually made a law surrounding that. The Supreme Court shot that down. It was like, no, you can't prohibit teachers from telling parents that their child is demonstrating signs of gender dysphoria. You can't do that. It's the Supreme Court ruled. I think the most surprising thing in this is that it was a 6-3 opinion. How could this have not been 9-0? I don't know, because you have radicals on the Supreme Court. And if Gavin Newsom gets into the presidency and he's allowed to appoint new Supreme Court justices, you're going to see the Supreme Court flip again. So we'll keep going here. So that's a big win. Big win. SCOTUS shoots down the law that made it illegal for teachers to tell parents when their child is demonstrating signs of gender dysphoria. We'll keep going here. Okay, so you remember how I had on District Attorney Jeff Reisig out of Yolo County? I had him on about a week ago, a little over a week ago, and we talked about the David Funston case. So that was a serial child rapist that was allowed to be paroled. Violent serial child rapist, served 20 years of his sentence, turned 50 years old, and was allowed to be paroled by the parole board that was hand appointed by Gavin Newsom. So this is a elder parole law that states, and many states have this same law, but California is the only state that have dropped the age to 50 years old. So if you're a violent criminal, even a murderer, and you've served at least 20 years of your sentence and you turn 50 years old, you are eligible for parole. The kicker of this is Gavin Newsom signed that bill, and then the parole board itself are all judges that are hand appointed by Gavin Newsom himself. I don't know if they're judges, they're parole board members, but they are hand chosen by Gavin Newsom. And well, there was good news. So out of what county is that? Placer County, I believe. The district attorney out of Placer County hit David Funston with new charges. So he's not going to be released. So this whole case became a nationwide story when it was found out that David Funston is going to be paroled. And that's the serial child rapist that was going to be paroled because he served his 20 years and he turned 50. Well, Placer County fortunately decided to file new charges against him about a case that he hadn't even been convicted over yet. So charges from 1996 when he allegedly sexually assaulted a child in Roseville. So he never even went to trial for that one. That's how much of a criminal and serial predator that this guy is, that he wasn't even charged for this crime. So kudos to the district attorney out of Placer County. All right. So you guys remember the story about the astrophysicist that was murdered on his own property? Well, apparently somebody trespassed onto his property before with a loaded rifle 2 months before he was killed, and the Newsom appointed judge dropped the charges. So this is a story from, I believe this is the Gateway Pundit. So let's read here. New details have emerged regarding the accused killer of Caltech astrophysicist Carl Grillmar. The Gateway Pundit previously reported astrophysicist Carl Grillmar, 67 years old, was shot in his torso by a gunman who approached him on his porch on February 16th. Authorities have since arrested Freddie Snyder, 29 years old, who has been charged with Grillmar's murder and is being held on a $3 million bail. New details obtained by the Los Angeles Times have revealed that Snyder was previously arrested 2 months earlier for trespassing on Grillmar's property with a loaded, unregistered rifle. Unregistered part didn't need to be added there. But so the guy that murdered him tried to murder him 2 months before that, and the judge released him. On December 20th, Lieutenant Michael Modica of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department said the scientist spotted someone possibly trespassing on his property and called law enforcement. When deputies arrived, they found Snyder in the area. Modica stated he was carrying a rifle and explained that he was on his way to the post office. That's a great thing to tell the cops, that you're walking around with a rifle and you're on the way to the post office. I mean, the term going postal exists for a reason. Grillmar's home and the local post office are in opposite direction from Snyder's home, property records show. According to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, Snyder told deputies he was carrying the rifle just in case he ran into wild animals. but deputies noted that the rifle was loaded and not registered to Snyder, so they took him into custody. In addition to the felony count of carrying a loaded firearm, the criminal complaint against Snyder charged him with trying to escape from the Palmdale Station jail the day after he was arrested. Oh, man. The New York Post further reported that Judge Osman Abbasi, appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom, dismissed Snyder's felony gun charges. That's insane because California is such an anti-gun state and all of these liberal judges are super hard on gun crimes. After dropping the felony gun charge, Judge Abbasi ordered Snyder to complete a gun safety course, and he was released from jail shortly thereafter. So they released him even after he tried to escape from jail. That's insane. Snyder was scheduled to appear in court again on February 5th regarding his case, but he did not show up for the hearing. Now, I will say, I think you should be able to walk around with a rifle. I do not believe you should be able to trespass onto someone's private property with a rifle. So, but I guess they couldn't prove that he was on his property. But this is the guy that ultimately killed him, so that's insane. Despite not appearing, Snyder's charges were dismissed. Oh, so he failed to appear for his court appearance, and they still dropped the charges. Incredible. Despite not appearing, Snyder's charges were dismissed under California Penal Code 1385, and just 11 days later, he allegedly murdered Gromar. Gromar's murder has rocked the astrophysicist community, considering he was a renowned researcher in the studies of dark matter, galactic structure, stellar populations, and exoplanets. Gromar was also noted in the community for finding water on a distant planet orbiting a star. So this was like the second astrophysicist murdered in the United States in like a 2-week period. And there are a lot of conspiracy theories that have been floating around what's actually happening here. MK Ultra stuff? What did this guy know? What did he really find? Interesting story. Sage of Echoes. A crackhead broke into my home. I defended myself and cops arrested me. While I was in jail over the weekend, the person came back and stole all my business equipment. No charges for him despite video. What? Oh, that's insane, but par for the course in California here. That's incredible. All right, let's keep going here. Okay, so oh yeah, this story. So this is from ABC, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Californians must let immigrant truck drivers keep their licenses, a judge rules. Incredible. Let's just watch the video because I don't feel like reading this article.
At 6, some California truck drivers will be allowed to continue to stay on the road. A judge says more than 20,000 immigrant truck drivers can keep their licenses for now. The Department of Transportation has tried to force the DMV to revoke driving privileges of asylum seekers and other immigrants with temporary legal status. It comes after the federal government found alleged clerical issues regarding the expiration dates on their licenses. California has extended the expiration date to March 9th.
Okay, so it was suspended on a clerical issue. Incredible. All right, let's keep going here. So yeah, you're still going to have illegal immigrant truck drivers on the streets of California and throughout the United States because, you know, they're delivering long haul loads. Oh, incredible. All right, so this is from Katie Sanchez. She is a state senator, California state senator, I believe. Oh, assemblywoman, my apologies. Out of Riverside County. So she says, if you're a parent, you need to watch this. I've just introduced a Safe Classrooms Act I've just introduced the Safe Classrooms Act because 17% of kids face sexual abuse in public schools. My bill will expedite the removal of these predators from classrooms and ban them from ever working in California education again. So let's listen to what she has to say here.
You need to see this. Respected investigative journalist Catherine Herridge just exposed something deeply disturbing, and every parent in California should be paying attention.
A lead researcher and educator in this field is Cheryl Shakeshaft. There's some data about the prevalence of sexual abuse of children in public schools. What is the latest data?
The latest data is 17%. Ms. Shakeshaft was the author of 2 studies commissioned by the Department of Justice. In December of 24, Harvard University published her most recent book, and she believes now that the number of children that suffer sexual misconduct by teachers, school administrators, and other personnel is about 17%.
Wait, 7?
So that's insane. 17%.
17%.
Yeah. In other words, 17% of students in this country who go to public schools will suffer some sort of sexual misconduct while in school by school personnel.
So what does that suggest? Let's look at that a little deeper. Sexual predators are drawn to places that they will have access to prey. Where are those places? Schools, daycare centers, that kind of thing. So this sort of transitions, no pun intended, into the transgender issue. People aren't worried so much about biological women transitioning to males and then invading male spaces because men are fully capable of defending themselves. But when biological males identify as females and they want to go into women's locker rooms and they haven't had any sort of surgery or anything, and they suffer from autogynephilia and just claim that they're trans, autogynephilia, the syndrome that's not in the DSM-5, but it should be, where men get off dressing up as women and then being viewed as women, and that gets them off. So they invade women's spaces. So we're talking about kids here, but it's the same principle. The same principle is that predators will be drawn to places that they will have access to prey. In this case, children.
Which is a staggering statistic if you do the math.
Right now, under California law, a teacher can be arrested for serious crimes and remain in the system for years while the districts fight a slow, expensive removal process. Because it's so slow, some school districts choose not to fight it at all. That is completely unacceptable. Last week, I introduced AB 2365, the Safe Classrooms Act, to fix it. If a teacher is formally charged with crimes like human trafficking, child abduction, child neglect, or luring a minor for sexual purposes, schools should be able to act fast using the expedited removal process. This bill does not eliminate due process. It puts our children first. Once the teacher is removed, they should not be allowed back into our education system. The Safe Classrooms Act also prohibits these untrustworthy teachers from ever working in the public education system ever again. This is about accountability. This is about safety. This is about restoring trust. This is about protecting our kids. Parents deserve to know that their kids are safe in the classroom now and will be in the future. Where your children are concerned, accountability isn't optional, it's essential.
Sounds pretty common sense to me. So we'll see if it passes. Probably won't because you have a California Democrat supermajority in California. So on sort of the same note, you've got more gender transition hysteria here. So this is from Jan Yekelik. Oh, Jekelik. I probably mispronounced that. He says, you either transition your child or you don't get to keep your child. Attorney Aaron Friday says California. Sorry, okay, good. I'm sharing it. Attorney Aaron Friday says California Child Protective Services can threaten parents who refuse to use their child's preferred pronouns. She told me she feared calling the police when her 13-year-old daughter ran away because she would worry CPS would take her child. Okay, we'll just play the clip because he's just quoting the clip here. So this is from the Epoch Times.
Well, it goes back to when I found out that my daughter, who was 13 years old.
Oh, I think my friend Tracy knows this attorney, Aaron Friday, with the California Parents Union. She's my friend out of Monterey. I'm pretty sure they're friends.
Just starting high school, was secretly socially transitioned at school, meaning that the school started to call my daughter by a male name, use male pronouns. And when I called the school and told them to stop, that next week, Child Protective Services was at my door. The next day, the police. And that was an immediate alert to me that the school wants to know better than wants to parent my child, and that if I didn't follow and call my daughter a boy, that Child Protective Services may come and take my child away.
These are the things Gavin Newsom is trying to distance himself from in a presidential run. And these are the things that people need to remember when considering Gavin Newsom for president. Giving the state and schools more rights over your child than parents. That's insane, because that is happening all over the place in California in tons of different regards.
And at the time, I didn't really know how dangerous the situation was. I later learned that parents in Southern California had lost custody of their children because she wouldn't transition her daughter. She wouldn't call her daughter a male, and CPS took her child. So now I knew that I already had a black mark. And a few months later, my daughter ran away. And the normal thing for a parent to do is to ask law enforcement to help find your child. She's 13, female, alone at night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I can't make that phone call because I know that there's already a file opened up on me and that Child Protective Services can swoop in anytime and take my child.
Like, think about how insane that is. If your child starts demonstrating signs of gender dysphoria, you've got a female, you've got a daughter. Think about it as a father. You've got a daughter. She starts saying, no, I'm actually a boy. I want you to call me by they, them pronouns or he, him pronouns. And they refuse. Child Protective Services can come take your child away. Think about how insane that is. There shouldn't even be a debate on whether parents should tell their child, no, you're actually a girl. I know that you might feel like you're in the wrong body, but you're going through puberty. Everybody going through puberty feels like they're in the wrong body. There's all sorts of funky things going on. Your new hormones, and it's a very confusing time. Having that conversation with your child can get your child taken away by Child Protective Services. Think about how insane that is. How insane of times that we live in. And these are because of radical progressive policies that are running rampant in Sacramento. The vast majority of the California state legislature, the Assembly and the Senate, are filled with these radicals that think the state should have more rights over your child than you do. And this is how far they're willing to take it. And it's insane.
So many things going through my head, at this moment. Is this a kind of blackmail? Like, how do you describe this scenario that if you don't basically follow what these people are demanding of you, you might lose your child?
Well, it's coercion at its highest level. It's telling a parent that you either need to transition your child or you don't get to keep your child. It's forcing a parent to socially transition their child and later medicalize their child. Puts them in a position of the worst position a parent could be in.
So we're only talking about the social transitioning of it. If you follow the same logic that they're using, that no, the child is allowed to make their own decisions. And if they want to identify as a boy, if your daughter wants to identify as a boy, that's her right. Okay, then it is also, wouldn't you use that same argument to say that if she wants to medically give herself a mastectomy, cut her breasts off, and start taking puberty blockers, that she has that right too? And if you deny her that right, we can take your child away? Like, that's the slippery slope you're on, using that argument with social transitioning. I even hate all these terms.
Is knowing that the government is coming after you because you believe in biological sex. You want to raise your daughter as a daughter that you birthed, that no human has ever changed sex. And you have the government telling you, no, you're abusive. You don't get to parent your child. The government knows better. This is America. This is insane.
100%. It is insane. It's insane. Okay, let's get into some California fraud stuff, shall we? So this is out of San Francisco. 826 San Francisco city employees earned over $400,000 in fiscal year 2025. Meet the 400 plus club. So not necessarily fraud, but it's like overtime. I guess it could be called like payroll theft, some of it, but a lot of it is just because of understaffing. So this sheriff sergeant earned $785,000. He earned $423,000 of that was overtime pay. So I guess that's how understaffed the San Francisco Sheriff's Department is. 4 senior deputy sheriffs earned $650,000 plus, each $300,000 in overtime. 138 Sheriff's Department employees topped $400,000. This is just Sheriff's Department employees. They don't even say that they're cops. Senior deputy average is the senior deputy average overtime is $208,000. That's almost twice what I make right there, just in overtime. Total cost is $66.8 million. 348 cops, just beat cops, made $400,000. Police sergeant, 749 sergeants earned $469,000. Jeez, like it's just so insane for a cop. I mean, cops should make a good living, but this is an overtime. So this is just bonkers. 110 police officers made $448,000. Chief of police, $547,000. That's almost understandable since he's the chief of police, I guess. Total cost was $160.5 million. Then there's pension fund managers, public health workers, all over $400,000. 103 firefighters, over $400,000. It's hard for me to hate on firefighters, but the rest are juvenile hall counselor, senior counselor, PUC, executive contract employee, and so on. So yeah, just massive wages. These are all government workers, you know, and then you got middle class people that are just struggling to get by. So I don't want to talk about that too long. We'll keep going here. This is just a video that came out of San Francisco that I wanted to play for you guys. So this you guys have seen like these street takeovers, and then, you know, street takeovers where they block off the intersection and have, you know, cars spin donuts and they light shit on fire and shoot off fireworks and that kind of thing. There's also been like these other types of street takeovers where you get tons of kids on motorcycles just on both sides of the street, just completely taking over streets. Well, that happened in San Francisco, and this guy got beat up by a bunch of kids. So this is like the lawlessness that takes place in California. You know, when Gavin Newsom goes on stage and says there's nothing to attack, they have California derangement syndrome. Well, this is the type of thing that can just happen to a random citizen in California just going about his daily life.
Terrified. I still am a little shook up about it, to be honest.
So this is just a kid, late teens, early 20s, gets attacked by a mob of kids riding around in bikes because kids and criminals are so emboldened to do shit on the streets because they won't get arrested.
But again, I'm just lucky that me and my friends are all okay.
The moments a riot out in San Francisco turned violent, shared in a social media video that's now part of a SFPD investigation. Isaac Auerbach says dozens of teens on bicycles surrounded his car after he and his friends were leaving the Red Bull event in the Marina District on Saturday.
One of these random kids decides to grope one of my friend's breasts. She then turns around and throws a drink at him. And another one rolls up on me, spits in my face. And then the first guy that rolled up on me socks me in the face. And they just...
So you saw that footage? That footage was coming from the attackers that posted it on the internet. Like, let me go back. Like, this is the kid in the car. So the kid that you're seeing being interviewed here is the driver of this car. So that's him right there. That's the kid being interviewed. Clearly, he's not recording this footage, even though it looks like he's smiling right there. He's being attacked. So that means the attackers are recording themselves committing the crime, and then they probably uploaded it to the internet to say, look what we did. I would doubt any of these kids have been arrested yet. And then it switches to him recording from inside the car.
And then the first guy that rolled up on me socks me in the face. And
so now this is him recording.
Destroying my car.
Broken glass, visible damage, and even a shoe print left behind. A nightmare scenario for Auerbach's mother, Jasmine Freeman.
You must have been so scared.
All these kids are just looking for trouble. They want to hurt people. They want to...
You're such a mom. You must have been so scared.
Cause trouble. It's ridiculous, and it's getting really out of hand.
You know, when your son, who is a good kid and who is responsible and respectful, who doesn't get in trouble, calls you in absolute panic. Yeah, it was really scary.
Freeman says she reached out to us because of our reporting on similar incidents, including...
She sounds like a good mom, doesn't she?
Another in San...
I'm not saying that sarcastically. She genuinely sounds like a sweet, good mom that raised a good kid.
San Francisco and one in Santa Clara. John Hidalgo suffered broken ribs and vertebrae after that attack, which was also shared by the riders on social media. We talked to him Thursday, and he told us he still has yet to hear an update from Santa Clara police about the incident. Freeman hopes raising awareness of the attack.
Oh, I apologize. I thought this took place in San Francisco. This was in Santa Clara. Look at they're on the freeway. Like, this is what I'm talking about. These are the street takeovers. You got a bunch of kids just like, how does Highway Patrol not round all of them up? Just cordon them off. All of them get arrested, take their bikes, you know, give them all fines, put them in jail, tell their parents they got to come down and get their kids and they got to pay a fine to get it out. That would stop this shit in their tracks. None of these kids that got arrested and their parents had to bail them out and pay money, they would never do that shit again because their parents would whoop their asses. But no, none of these kids got in trouble. I guarantee it.
Acts will lead to safer streets for all.
It seems like these kids are in every city. So I'm just hopeful that by getting more exposure and, you know, people finding out more about it, that people will start reporting it more.
Freeman says she reached out to Mayor Daniel Lurie's office, who connected her with SFPD.
Oh, it was in San Francisco. Then why did they say Santa Clara? I'm confused.
Police confirmed Auerbach's accountant said the investigation is ongoing, but no arrests have been made. Anyone with information should contact SFPD.
No arrests have been made, even though one of the kids doing the attacking seemingly uploaded the footage to the internet. Again, that footage was from the attacker attacking him, but they haven't found him. I mean, if you posted it to social media, it's pretty easy to figure out who the kid was. I'm dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. All right, this next one is just kind of funny. So let me go to this image here before I share it. Okay, so you guys remember Alyssa Liu, the figure skater, the Oakland Bay Area local that won gold in the Olympics. We all love her, the Ice Princess. Awesome. I mean, I talked about this last week. I mean, everybody loves her. She just carried herself so well, and it was just awesome watching her skate. Well, Oakland decided to do a tribute for her by painting a mural of Alyssa Liu on the outside of a building. Beautiful gesture, right? Beautiful gesture. Well, here's the mural. Yep, there it is. Does this look like Alyssa Liu to you? I mean, she's got big hoop earrings. She looks like she's doing the Nas, na 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 na, and she's holding up her gold medal that doesn't look like a gold medal. And is she still Asian? Like, that doesn't look like Alyssa Liu to me, but whatever. It's the thought that counts, Oakland. Great work. Keep it up. All right, we'll keep going. I just thought that was funny. I wanted to share it with you guys really quick. All right, this is from the Wall Street Apes. The Oakland Unified School District Board of Education members just approved hundreds of layoffs in California. So this is interesting. Yeah, Oakland is a disaster. They have no funding, so guess they got to cut. You know, they can't cut any government employees that are, you know, sitting in City Hall or anything like that. They got to cut teachers and stuff. So yeah, let's just watch this quick clip here.
This significantly impacts the educational experience of our students.
Just please work on behalf of our kids and solve these issues.
If we don't make some decisions related to our budget tonight, we won't be able to pay everybody that's on the payroll right now.
This is not stability, this is chaos.
Anger in Oakland as school leaders lay off hundreds of people trying to solve a financial crisis. Good evening. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Thanks for joining us. The Oakland Unified School Board is
It's Amma Dates again. Amma Dates.
Trying to close a $100 million gap without closing schools.
Tonight, the board voted to cut hundreds of jobs at its central office and on school campuses. Parents, students, and staff packed tonight's emotional meeting.
ABC 7 Eyewitness News reporter Tim Johns was there and is in the newsroom with the story. Tim, school leaders really have some tough decisions to make here.
Dan Amma, that's right. Now, tensions were high at the meeting tonight. That friction evident not just among frustrated parents and staff in the audience, but also between members of the board itself.
Excuse me, I have the floor right now.
And it was
no,
seconded.
I have the floor.
Emotions were running high Wednesday at the Oakland Unified School District's board meeting. The OUSD board was divided over whether to eliminate hundreds of jobs for the next school year. Those cuts coming as the district faces a budget deficit of $100 million.
This is the worst crisis.
Oakland faces a deficit of $100 million. Oh, yeah. Of all the cities in California, Oakland has to be the worst off in terms of how it's run from a governmental level. I mean, you've got, indicted former Mayor Sheng Tao. Then you've got former District Attorney Pamela Price that was she recalled? I think she was recalled in disgrace, much like former District Attorney out of San Francisco, Chesa Boudin. And you've got millions of dollars worth of fraud and mismanagement and $100 million budget deficit. Oh my God, that's just the schools. Just the schools are facing a $100 million deficit. This isn't a city budget. This is just for the Department of Education. Oh my God, what are they going to do? That is insane.
USD has ever faced. Period.
If Trump wanted to earn some points, he would take like some funding that's supposed to go to California and he would give it directly to the Oakland School Board to say, you guys don't lay anybody off. We'll take care of you. I'm not suggesting he does that, but it would earn him a whole hell of a lot of points in California if he bailed out the Oakland School District.
School board member Mike Hutchinson has been a vocal critic of many of the board's decisions. He and some of his colleagues believe they've delayed dealing with the district's financial issues for months, leaving them to now make last-minute choices.
We don't even know what's possible yet. We never did the work to see what are our options.
These are big questions, and I do not have any of the answers, and I have issue with that.
During the meeting, both staff and members of the public expressed frustration.
And I would really like.
How many people with masks there are in this room? Still, you've got a school board official up there in a mask. It's 2026. It's infuriating. And she had the mask down below her nose, if you noticed. It's just, sorry.
Like to see OUSD thrive. And I truly think we can do much better as a district.
I got a plan. Anyone wearing a mask is fired. There's part of your budget right there.
Kerry Kaufman is the president of United Administrators of Oakland Schools. He thinks the district
You're fired.
is in an impossible situation.
You lady.
I'm very concerned about the proposed cuts, and I am extremely concerned about no cuts happening tonight and us losing local control and having the state or the county step in.
In addition to the job cuts, the district is also looking for other ways to trim the deficit, suggesting early retirement incentives and other ideas.
What we were doing did not work. So we have to make something different, and we have to make those tough decisions.
And while everyone will feel some amount of pain, many say it's the district students who will be impacted the most.
It doesn't really represent responsible action. Neither does anything that we've seen here. I feel like we've been failed by everyone.
Oh, everybody else failed you. It wasn't you. And their biggest concern is that the county or that the state's going to have to step in because they didn't resolve anything that night. I didn't hear anybody say like, here, this is everybody that gets paid right now. This is everything we spend money on. We need to slash this. We need to slash that. We need to slash this. There's none of that going on. It was just a bunch of like virtues. We need to change something. Something needs to change. It was just a bunch of rhetoric and nobody's actually saying, okay, well, we need to do this. We need to cut this. We need to cut that. No actual suggestions, just a bunch of freaking grandstanding.
Now, in addition to these budgetary issues, the district is also facing the possibility of a teacher strike in the near future as well. The teachers union voted to authorize one last Friday after more than 10 months of contract negotiations. As of now, no strike date has been set, though, and the next round of bargaining will happen tomorrow.
Oakland is a disaster. Oakland is such a beautiful city, too. It's just such a shame. All right, let's keep going here. Oh, man, I'm already way over time. So this is from Steve Hilton. More fraud. So he says, this is found by Cal Doge. 1 billion with a B in gas tax, electric bill surcharges intended for solar panels on low-income households. Only 72 million spent. 928 million siphoned off for Democrat activism voter registration. Wow. So they got granted $1 billion for solar panels for low-income households. and $928 million disappeared. This is California in a nutshell. Stealing our money to build their political machine as governor. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Let's listen to what Steve Hilton had to say here. If you guys haven't listened to my interview with Steve Hilton from 2 weeks ago, I highly recommend it.
This is our second report from CalDoge.
Audio, fix your audio, Steve.
Our second fraud report. I'm here with Jenny Ray LaRue, the director of CalDoge. We're standing in front of an organization called GRID. Since 2015, $1 billion has been taken from Californians from taxes on gas and electricity. That's why we pay the highest gas prices and the highest electric rates in the country. Some of that money, $1 billion, $100 million every year, has been sent to this organization with the intention of putting solar panels on the roofs of apartment buildings. Do you know what's happened to that $1 billion since then? How much of it has actually been spent on solar panels? 72 million out of $1 billion. It's supposed to be 100 million every year for 10 years. $928 million have been stolen. Your money. Do you know where it's gone? Voter registration by leftist groups supporting the Democratic Party. It is an absolute scandal. Just the latest in the amount of money that's been stolen from you. $1 billion supposed to be for solar panels. Only 72 million was spent.
All right, you guys get the point. They seem to have stolen over 90% of the money. Incredible. I didn't realize how short Steve Hilton is. That could be a problem. Short guys don't get elected. I'm just saying. That's why we'll continue. I don't need to get into that. That's be my heightism coming into play there. So okay, so this is the same story, just Mario Narwhals reposted it, so we'll keep going past that story. This is from Ashley Zavala. So you know the Capitol Annex project that Ashley Zavala has been talking about for probably 3 years now, about how there's just billions of dollars going into the black hole of the Capitol Annex project, and nobody has any visibility on what's that money's being spent on. Well, she says a bill could force California lawmakers to start talking about the controversial Capitol Annex project. The building is more than halfway done, but leaders still won't say how much it'll cost. My interview requests have been denied, so I went to the site to ask questions. Yeah, nobody will answer her on this. And John Laird, State Senator John Laird, out of my district, my state senator, the guy that I ran against, he is sort of spearheading this whole project too. So massive corruption.
Well, we have some new information now on that controversial, secretive California Capitol Annex project.
That's the construction of a new office building for lawmakers and the governor. Project leaders for years have been keeping taxpayers in the dark about the cost of this new building. It's expected to cost at least $1 billion. Our KCRA 3 political director, Ashley Zavala, joins us with a new push for transparency. Ashley.
I have a feeling that when all the information finally comes out, that it's going to be 10x whatever they said the original cost was going to be, just like any other project, like the high-speed rail, the California Homeless Industrial Complex. I will bet money, bookmark this, somebody clip this, that whatever the original tally was, whatever the original total for the Capitol Annex project was, if it was $1 billion, it's going to be $10 or $15 billion that was actually spent on this project. I guarantee it, and nobody's going to know where a bunch of the money went, and no audit will ever be done, and nobody will ever get in trouble.
Lisa, well, nearly 3 months after promising to be more transparent, project leaders have yet to give an update on the cost of this project. They're also rejecting our repeated requests for an interview. At last check, more than 3 years ago, this was going to cost taxpayers $1.1 billion. But we broke the story back in 2024 that thousands of people, including project leaders, have signed non-disclosure agreements, legally agreeing to keep basic information about this project a secret. Well, a new bill at the state capitol filed last week could end the secrecy and force a very public conversation.
Capitol Annex construction workers on lunch. Hi there. How's it going in there? No comment.
Tight-lipped.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't talk. I don't want to get in trouble here.
Instructed to not say anything.
Just checking to see how the construction's going.
Like any other job, I reckon.
Oh, he said, I reckon, packing a pack of camels. This is a salt of the earth man right here. I wish I could talk to him.
Okay. I know you can't really share much though, right? Have you all been told you can't share much?
I don't know.
We tried with them because we're still not getting much from project leaders.
I like that guy already. Poor dude. He's like, I'll get fired if I say shit, I reckon.
Workers, some state lawmakers, government officials, and thousands of others have signed non-disclosure agreements to keep basic information about the project a secret.
I think when you're going to spend over $1 billion, you need to have more transparency than this.
Assemblyman Josh Hoover filed a bill that would toss those secrecy agreements.
The bill would, in one part, obviously void any existing NDAs on the project, which in my opinion.
So it's Republicans that are pushing for more transparency. It'll get shot down by all the Democrats because they're the ones that are funneling all the money into shady things.
Have been used to sort of shroud this project in secrecy, and a lot of people hiding behind those.
CC Pino, you hit the nail on the head there. Newsom, unions, city jobs. That's the circular money laundering operation that goes right there. No bid contracts to unions. They take that money, build the project. How much money is spent on that project is super secret. And then a bunch of money gets siphoned off the top, gets spread out into the pockets of politicians, and gets put into the campaigns of the very politicians that give them the no bid contracts. CC Pino, you nailed it right there.
NDAs to block information coming out, even to legislators.
Hoover's bill would also prohibit construction of a new visitor center on the west side of the Maine state capitol, which was originally part of the plan. Project leaders quietly decided to not move forward with it. It's one of several decisions they've made behind closed doors.
We have heard that that visitor center may or may not happen, but what we really want to see is just assurances.
We believe it's also important for us to be transparent.
Months after promising to be more transparent, lawmakers leading the project, Assemblymember Blanca Pacheco and State Senator John Laird, have since rejected our repeated requests for an interview. The two have been defending the use of the project's NDAs to protect security and sensitive bidding information.
Why not change this NDA to say what the two of you are saying right now about security and bids?
So these are drafted by legal counsel, and so I cannot say why legal
my lawyers won't let me, so that's why.
Counsel would draft it in such a manner. Sometimes legal counsel prefers to have broad language.
We're told construction is more than halfway through, and the building is expected to be complete by fall of 2027.
It's puzzling.
Dick Cowan used to lead the state's now defunct Historic State Capitol Commission. He supports Hoover's bill.
Which is the only way the current leaders of the project can really find out what went wrong and how they could avoid this on future projects. They have to talk to everyone involved.
And this should be a completely nonpartisan issue. All Californians should be concerned about this exact type of thing. These massive, secretive projects that get billions of dollars of taxpayer funding, and there's no transparency on how that money is being spent. This isn't a left-right issue. We're all taxpayers. We should all have transparency on how our taxpayer dollars are being spent. But who are they keeping it a secret from? Us. We're the ones funding these giant boondoggles. And they just keep, kicking us right in the balls anytime anybody asks questions and making it a partisan issue. Oh, it's the Republican. It's all nonsense. There should be bipartisan support of transparency on this bill. But I guarantee you, the supermajority Democrat state legislature will kick this thing to the curb.
And of course, at the moment, those people are afraid to speak.
Now, in a statement together, those project leaders, Assemblymember Blanca Pacheco and State Senator John Laird, said they're aware of the proposal and will let the legislative process run its course. When I asked about the updated cost estimate today, they said they're still waiting for project managers to, quote, crunch the numbers and will share as soon as they can. I should note, they've been saying this for the last 3 months.
Well, and I'm just curious.
She's so pissed. This has become like a crusade for her. If you've been following her for years, like I have, she gets more pissed. You can see it in her face, the way she said, I've been asking about this for the last 3 months. She says it all angry and sassy. I love Ashley Zavala. And Ashley Zavala is such a good reporter. I don't know what her political views are. I don't know if she's on the left or on the right. I can't tell. That's exactly what a journalist should be. Ashley Zavala, in my opinion, is one of the best journalists in California. And I love that she has taken this crusade to find out where California taxpayer money is going.
There's two questions. Well, Callan just said they're afraid to speak. Why are they afraid to speak? And what is the governor saying about all this?
Right. I mean, that's the question, is why is everyone so, I mean, honestly, this project predates so many of the people at the state capitol right now. It's really not clear what they're trying to protect.
She's so pissed, and I love it.
Meanwhile, Governor Gavin Newsom, I did reach out to his office today. Now, again, his office does not oversee the day-to-day decision-making on this project, but I just asked if he has anything to add here. Nothing yet. We are still waiting to hear back.
I mean, because you shouldn't be scared to just tell the truth and be honest about it, right?
And at some point, maybe we'll get an update. That's what project leaders are saying.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley.
I would be willing to bet that John Laird himself knows exactly how much money has been spent on this. John Laird, specifically. California State Senator John Laird knows exactly how much money has been spent on this. He ain't going to say shit because he knows where that money's going. He knows that, oh shit, they're sniffing around the crime scene, and he's scared he's going to get busted. Maybe he's trying to run this out to where at the end of his term as California State Senator. Maybe that's it. Who knows? But the Capitol Annex project, I mean, it's not as big of a financial boondoggle as the California High-Speed Rail. But we're talking about $1 billion, potentially $10 billion, maybe even more. It's a lot of money, especially when the Oakland School District has a $100 million, $100 million budget deficit, and then you've got this. like really think about that. To put it in perspective, you've got this Capitol Annex project that they said was going to be $1 billion. Nobody can get any transparency on how much money is being spent or how it's being spent. At the same time, and so this is a building for politicians. That's the only reason this building's being built. So the politicians can have some fancy new offices to go to. That's the only reason for this. Meanwhile, you've got the Oakland School Board, who has a $100 million deficit. It's like, this is the dichotomy of California finances. It's absurd. If it's for politicians, give them a blank check. If it's for kids, fuck them. That's basically it. All right, we'll keep going with the Wall Street apes here. So this is an interesting story. I put it in with the California thing because eBay is a California company, and I may or may not have done a ton of work for eBay in the past, not like selling stuff on eBay, but at the eBay campuses, building things and getting eyes on the inside of these buildings, much like those construction workers that you just saw in that video that got eyes on the inside of the Capitol Annex project. So this is just sort of a particularly interesting story to me. So this is crazy. eBay agrees to settle a major lawsuit scandal. A woman online criticizes the CEO's pay package. eBay executives responded by posting the women's house online for sex parties, sent her packages of live spiders, sent her a book on surviving the death of your spouse, sent her a book on surviving the death of your spouse, arrived on their doorstep, followed by a funeral wreath, and sent her a bloody pig Halloween mask. The CEO has already stepped down. So again, I may or may not have been in his office doing work myself. So I may or may not know who this guy is, like, really well.
Corporate giant eBay has agreed to settle a lawsuit over a scandal so bizarre it even has its own Wikipedia page.
Wow, this story is out of Australia, but this is a California story. eBay is right down there in Campbell, in the Bay Area.
It has been described as a campaign of terror carried out by eBay employees against Massachusetts couple Ina and David Steiner. It all started in April of 2019 over a post she'd written on the couple's newsletter about the pay packet of eBay's CEO. That saw the CEO of the multi-billion-dollar company involve other executives.
This guy's office may or may not be lined with Kevlar walls, by the way, like Kevlar, like behind the drywall, like bulletproof Kevlar, double stacked, may or may not.
With one of his texts just reading, "Take her down." Investigators say from there, the couple started being bombarded by newsletters they'd never signed up for. Their home was listed online for sex parties before the parcels started arriving. Everything from live spiders, a bloody pig Halloween mask, and a book on surviving the death of your spouse arrived on their doorstep, followed by a funeral wreath. The whole thing was only stopped after David Steiner managed to snap a photo of a van that was following him and traced it to an eBay employee. While the exact payout hasn't been disclosed, the couple were seeking $500 million. The CEO has already stepped down, but denies knowing what his staff were doing. While the company's former senior director of safety and security was given almost 5 years in jail.
All because this couple put out online how much the guy is getting paid, how much the CEO of eBay is getting paid. So he had to step down. I would say this guy allegedly was the person that told them to do all these crazy things to this couple. Sent them live freaking spiders. Who does that? Where'd they get the spiders? What the hell? How can you order live spiders online? Who does that? That's insane. Insane. Freaking eBay. There's eBay for you. That's who's pulling the strings behind eBay. So pretty insane, if you ask me. All right. So here's another failed California project. I haven't even covered the 911 system. So if you guys are in California and you have a cell phone, which is all of you, you've been paying an extra fee every year on top of your normal cell phone bill that is supposed to go towards this new 911 system, this new fancy 911 system that we're going to have in California. That's been a project that's been going on for years, and you've been paying that fee for years. Well, they decided, no, we're not going to do this project anymore because the 911 system doesn't work. So millions of dollars, potentially $1 billion, was just thrown away, and you guys paid for it on top of your cell phone bills, just saying. But in addition to that, you've got California's $2.2 billion solar plant is shutting down, once hailed as a breakthrough on the, why do they always do names I can't pronounce? Ivanpah solar facility in the Mojave Desert is now a case study in failed technology and environmental risk. Built with $1.6 billion in federal loans in 2014, the plant was hailed as a symbol of Americans' clean energy future. It used 173,000 mirrors to focus sunlight into the massive towers, heating fluid to drive steam turbines. Complicated, expensive, and it never delivered on its promise. After just 11 years, the technology is now obsolete. On top of that, the facility became notorious for its environmental toll. The estimate of at least 6,000 birds incinerated each year by the concentrated beams, because they're fucking giant mirrors reflecting sunlight, and these birds would fly over and just get roasted. That's our green energy initiative in a nutshell for you guys right there. The promise was affordable, reliable, green power. The reality was high cost, technical failures, and ecological damage. What does that sound like? That sounds exactly like the offshore wind project they have planned out in Morro Bay and up in Humboldt County, where they're going to put these giant windmills that are as tall as the Eiffel Tower, free floating, because some of them have to be so far offshore with, I won't even get into it, but it's that project itself has so many negative environmental impacts, including birds, because they're putting the windmills right in the annual migratory path of a bunch of endangered birds out in Morro Bay. Then you have, if you guys have ever been to Morro Bay, it's the little town out near San Luis Obispo. It's got the big giant rock right there. It's like the symbol of Morro Bay. Beautiful little beach town. It is beautiful, and it's kind of hidden. It's like tucked away. It's a little tricky to get to. It's south of Hearst Castle. Beautiful area. Yeah, they want to put a bunch of windmills there, and they want to build a big giant battery pack that's going to store all the energy that these windmills are going to provide. And all these windmills are going to be like daisy chained together with power cables that won't even be buried. And obviously the damage to the birds, but also whales. So there's two different impacts that it'll have on whales. First of all, they have to scan the ocean floor using like sonar type shit. And that like freaks out the whales, like mapping system, like internal mapping system that they have, because the frequencies that these like sonar devices that they use, where it's like echolocation, where they map the bottom of the ocean floor, that screws the whales up. And then you have these big giant ships that will have to be these gigantic ships that will service all of these windmills, that will go windmill to service them. Well, they're going to have to be, first of all, they're going to have to be docked inside the little like inlet there in Morro Bay, turning it into like industrialized, a small little surf town, turning it into like an industrialized town. But secondly, those ships, they travel so close to the shore that it messes up like how the mother whales swim with their baby whales. It's basically they're not going to be able to be on the right side of the whales because the ships are going to be so close to the shore. Mama whales like to keep their baby whales on the shore side when they swim next to them to protect them from predators. But these ships are going to be on so close to the shore that the whales are going to have to swim around them, so they're not going to be able to protect their babies anymore. And then there's the actual rotation of the windmill that's like a jackhammer every time it rotates, so that messes up the way. It's an environmental catastrophe, and it's being sold as environmentalism. It's insane. You guys should follow the California Institute of Science and Technologies. I've been talking about him forever. This guy Michael Hogan that I need to get on here to talk about it. But yeah, it's the California green energy shit is insane. It's insane if you ask me. Not to mention how much it's going to cost. It's bonkers. Okay, we'll keep going here. Actually, I wanted to play that video. Is there yeah, you know what? Let me play this video really quick.
California's $2.2 billion solar plant is shutting down. Once hailed as a breakthrough, the Ivanpah solar facility in the Mojave Desert is now a case study in failed technology and environmental risk. Built with $1.6 billion in federal loans in 2014, the plant was hailed as a symbol of America's clean energy future. It used 173,000 mirrors to focus sunlight onto 3 massive towers, heating fluid to drive steam turbines. Complicated, expensive, and it never delivered on its promise. After just 11 years, the technology is now obsolete. On top of that, the facility became notorious for its environmental toll, with estimates of at least 6,000 birds incinerated each year by the concentrated beams. The promise was affordable, reliable, green power. The reality was high costs, technical failures, and ecological damage.
So it's not even solar. It's literally a giant tower with a bunch of mirrors surrounding it that focuses a death ray into the tower to heat water. Like, this is supposed to be like super advanced tech. They built a death ray. Looks like they built 3 death rays out in the middle of the Mojave Desert that killed a bunch of birds and probably a bunch of other wildlife. It looks cool. It looks like space age, but God, just California in a nutshell. Do the stupidest shit. Like, all of the energy resources we have naturally existing in California, and we take advantage of none of them because, oh, it's going to damage the environment. Meanwhile, they do shit like this where they roast birds with death rays and the energy doesn't get created. It's hysterical. Okay. All right. Well, this is one of the last stories we'll talk about. CCP, we need to start building nuclear desalination plants, and down the coast we could pump water away where to fight fires. Yeah, I'm super pro nuclear, but California will never get on board with any new nuclear plants. They just won't. It's impossible. I've gone to these events that I was talking about with the California Institute of Science and it's CASI, CASI, California. California Art and Science Institute is what it is. And they put on these speaking events. And so I've gone to several of them, and, a bunch of liberals show up and they listen to people speak. And as soon as you bring up nuclear, it's like saying the secret word that triggers something in liberals' brains. They just are not having it. It's like talking to a wall. They just hear nuclear, they think Fukushima, they think 3 Mile Island, they think Chernobyl, and that's all they can think about. There's no way to explain to the liberal mind how nuclear technology has improved since the 80s. And there's no way that it won't happen, unfortunately. Again, from the Wall Street Apes here, we've got California Democrats are proposing a bill that would ban all ICE agents from ever being able to hold a position as a local or state law enforcement officer Democrats also want to ban all ICE agents from ever being able to work in a public school grade K through 12 or in a state university. Rooker T. Jones, this is called, here, let me just go to the video.
Lawmakers in the state of California are thinking of proposing a bill that would ban all ICE agents from ever being able to hold a position as a local or state law enforcement officer. Also, they want to ban all ICE agents from ever being able to work in a public school, grade K through 12, or in a state university, saying that if a person has ever worked for ICE, they are not trustworthy. Therefore, they should never have a position as a law enforcement officer or work in any type of public school around children. This is called the Misconduct and Law Enforcement Trust Act of 2026, and it's titled the Melt ICE Act. It is a way to punish ICE agents, blacklisting them from an entire category of public servant. I want to remind you, though, in the state of California, teachers by law can withhold valuable information from a parent, such as if your child at school wants to go by a boy when she's a girl, wants to be called Tom when her name is Lisa, teachers cannot tell the parents that because they want to make sure the child trusts the teacher.
But that just got shot down by the Supreme Court, so that's good.
But ICE agents, they're not trustworthy enough to be around kids, but teachers can withhold valuable information from parents. This is just another example of how cuckoo lawmakers are in California and blacklisting anyone who's ever been an ICE agent. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
This seems like it goes against something in the Constitution. I don't know what. I can't tell you. It just seems like how can they do that? I don't understand. All right, we'll keep going. So more California gas stuff. So as Gavin is trying to push the high gas prices issue in California onto Trump's war in Iran, which will increase gas prices, the original gas crisis in California, it still exists because of Gavin Newsom and these insane policies. So this is from the California Post. Chevron warns of economic collapse in California under Gavin Newsom in doomsday letter. So let's just read the article here. Yeah, it's not too long. So should I play the video or should I read the article? Let's play the video because I'm lazy and I'm already way over time. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not the right video. Okay, I'm reading the article. California will face economic collapse under Gavin Newsom's misguided climate policy, with crippling job losses in the sky-high gas prices. Chevron warned in a doomsday letter to the lefty governor on Wednesday. The oil giant's bleak outlook in the letter to Newsom and the California Air Resources Board, CARB, came amid calls to block proposed amendments to the Cap and Trade Invest program, which places a strict limit on greenhouse emissions that decreases each year. So yeah, every single year, the regulations get more strict and more strict. Chevron argues that the carbon cutting program will cripple the survivability of the state's remaining refineries, with devastating effects on the Golden State and its residents. And we got the Phillips 66 plant down in Southern California, and then we got the Benicia plant here in the Bay Area that are both shutting down this year. So we haven't even seen the impacts from that yet. Once those refineries go under, I think that's like 30% of California's refining capacity already with those two plants. And we haven't even seen the effects in gas prices from that yet. So this is on top of that. The proposed regulation would cripple survival. Okay, I already read that. This regulation will increase transportation and aviation fuel prices for consumers. It will risk significant job losses, including many high-paying union jobs, while reducing funding for essential public services. It will upend California fuels markets and threaten critical energy and national security assets, the letter from Chevron continued. Chevron said the oil and gas industry supports more than 530,000 jobs across the Golden State alone and contributes approximately $64 billion each year in state and local and federal tax revenues that help fund education, healthcare, and essential infrastructure. California's Cap and Invest program limits aggregate greenhouse emissions from major polluters, which account for roughly 80% of the Golden State's pollution. It requires the companies to buy allowances for each ton of carbon dioxide emitted. Each year, fewer allowances are created, So they can basically buy their way out of the program too, which is a whole other like shady thing that they do with this bill. It's like, you can't have this, you can't have so much emissions, but if you pay us enough, you can have those emissions. And it only proves that this isn't about the emissions at all. Keep going. It agrees the companies, it requires the companies to buy allowances for each ton of carbon dioxide emitted. Each year, fewer allowances are created. Revenue from the program funds climate-friendly initiatives such as public transport projects and public health projects, according to CARB. Similar plot schemes in Spain and Australia have faced stiff opposition, but Newsom and CARB have continued the money-making operation. The governor extended the program, which was set to expire in 2030 through 2045 in September, coming after Valero began shutting down its Benicia refinery last month. Chevron has warned that the state cannot survive another refinery shutdown. Chevron urges policymakers and regulators to reconsider and revise the proposed regulation before it causes lasting and irreversible harm to the California economy and energy security and broader vital American interests, Walt said in a letter. The cap and invest regulation currently contributes 24 cents to the gallon of gas for drivers in California, the oil leader noted, citing the California Energy Commission. So, yeah, just, you know, heads of oil refineries in California are at their wits' end with the California government because they can't continue operating here because of the regulations. And then if they all pack up and leave, what are we going to do? Are we going to have $15 a gallon gas because we got to import it from another country? It's all out of here. CCP no, all while PG, I think you said PG&E 0026E keeps going up. 6 pay hikes in the last year alone. Yeah, it's not even, gas prices are completely separate from electricity, which is also insane. So yeah, another thing. Okay, so last story I got for tonight, folks. Yeah, I already went way over time, but that's okay. The California Democrat Party is also from the Wall Street Apes. The California Democrat Party is preparing to tell Democrats running for California government. I'm sorry. Let me start over here. California Democrats are running like 15 candidates right now. And the top 2 polling candidates are Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, which are both Republicans. And everybody's saying, could we end up with 2 Republican candidates for governor? No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to freaking happen because exactly what I said was going to happen is about to happen. California Democrats are the California Democrat Party is going to go to all these candidates and be like, look, if you guys are polling at like 2%, 3%, 8%, you got to drop out. We have to rally around 1 or 2 candidates and we have to give that candidate our endorsement because there's 2 viable Republicans running. What they want, if you guys aren't aware, California has what's called the jungle primary system, which means the top 2 vote getters in the primary move on to the general election. A lot of people don't even vote in the primaries. The primaries are when you have all the different candidates, Democrats and Republicans alike, all 20 of them are put on a ballot, or however many there are that are running, are put on a ballot, and the people that get the top 2 votes move on to the general election. It's not like other states where you get a Republican candidate and you get a Democrat candidate, and you have primaries for both of them that are held within their respective parties, and then you have a Republican and a Democrat to vote between. In California, it's a jungle primary system, top 2 vote getters, winner take all. So traditionally, you end up with 2 Democrats to choose from, even though the last time, no, it usually works out 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. But in my opinion, if Chad Bianco or Steve Hilton doesn't drop out of the race because they're polling so high, we're going to end up with 2 Democrat candidates to choose from. Typically, California, for the governor race, the Republican gets between 30 and 40% of the vote. If you have 2 viable Republican candidates in the primary, they're going to split that in half. They're going to get, each one of them is going to get 15% of the vote. If the Democrats drop it down to 2 candidates, they're going to get 7. One of them is going to get like 40% of the vote. So, and then the next one will get 30% of the vote. And the 2 Republicans will be shit out of luck because they split the vote. So California Democrats are now doing what I said they were going to do. They're going to each of these candidates and be like, look, you got to get out of here. You got to quit running because all you're doing is hurting the party at this point. So Let's watch this video.
Win, get out. That's the very direct message from the chair of California's Win, get out. That's the
She said, if you can't win, get out.
very direct message from the chair of California's Democratic Party to the half a dozen high-profile Democrats that are running for governor. The June primaries are fast approaching and the field remains very crowded. Here's a look at the latest polling from February. You can see the top two Republican candidates are.
So, I mean, see, like, you've got Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, Tom Steyer are like the top three Democrats, but you also have like Javier Pachera, Betty Yee, and like five other candidates that are polling at like 3%, 4%, and they're just dragging the Democrats down. So right now, these five are polling in the top: Eric Swalwell, Tom Steyer, Chad Bianco, Republican, Katie Porter, Democrat, and Steve Hilton, Republican. The Democrats are putting pressure on the Democrat candidates to drop out of the race.
Polling around the same numbers as the top three Democrats. And the Democratic Party's worried all those other candidates polling at a combined 30 points could clear the way for a Republican victory for the first time since 2006. Robert Honda joins us live after talking to the party's chair. Robert, what's he saying tonight?
Well, what he said probably shook up quite a few campaigns, but the party chief says it's simple math. Too many Democrats could splinter the primary vote and help Republicans gain a top spot in the general election. Let's meet those candidates. 9 prominent Democrats have been campaigning for governor here in the Bay Area and all around the state, but everyone is just campaigning right now. This Friday, that changes. March 6th is the filing deadline to become an official candidate. California uses a jungle primary format, meaning the 2 top vote getters in June go on to the November election, regardless of their party.
So March 6th is tomorrow. So we will likely see a ton of candidates drop out tomorrow.
So with 2 Republicans polling fairly well, state Democrats worry so many Democrats will fracture the vote. That's why state Democratic Party Chair Rusty Hicks put out an open letter essentially saying, if you can't win now, drop out.
I'm asking each candidate for governor to honestly and candidly assess their viability to make it to the general election. And if they don't see a viable path, to simply not file. And if they do file, to be prepared to suspend their campaign and endorse another candidate if, in fact, they do not become viable by mid-April.
San Jose.
So I have Betty Yee and 3 other candidates have officially filed. Betty Yee, Matt Mahan, San Jose mayor, and 2 other candidates, can't remember, did officially file. So, I mean, that's actually good news for Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. The more the Democrat vote gets split, the more those 2 guys have a chance of actually moving on to the general election.
State University political science professor and dean of undergraduate education, Melinda Jackson, says with the 2 Republicans polling pretty well, the request makes sense.
The primary elections don't have a huge voter turnout. So
I'm going to make my prediction right here. I think the 2 people we're going to have to choose from in the California general election is going to be Steve Hilton and Eric Swalwell. That's who I think we're going to end up to choose from. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong. It might be Chad Bianco, but I think Eric Swalwell is going to be the Democrat candidate. And I do think we will have 2 Republicans to choose from. Maybe even if both Republicans stay in the race, it'll probably end up Republican, Democrat, or Democrat, Republican, Republican for the next 2 slots. I don't know. It's tough to call.
So, typically we're talking less than 30% of voters turn out for a primary. So again, if you have Republican voters who are really motivated because they think they might get, 1 or 2 of their guys on the ballot, that could really create some risk for the Democrats this time.
That's another good point, actually. Yeah. If there is a lot of excitement around both Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, even there's a big feud happening between those 2 voter groups, but typically there isn't a big turnout of voters during the primary. Most people only vote in the general election. In California, since we have a jungle primary, the jungle primary is actually more important to show up for than the general election, because you're going to end up with 2 Democrats if there isn't a massive Republican turnout.
Hicks says he understands with such prominent candidates, it will be hard for any of them to picture themselves not gaining ground.
Reality is that the stakes are incredibly high at this historic moment in our nation. California's leadership, both at home and abroad, is at stake.
There are a lot of great candidates in this race, but somebody's going to have to, kind of put the good of the party above their own personal self-interest.
Well, the Democratic candidates have a few days to ponder that call from their party, and we are hearing that some candidates are already pushing back. For example, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan. They're saying that they might not be polling that well now, but they will get better later as long as they keep campaigning.
I think that's right. There's massive money behind Matt Mahan. He's got big tech on lock.
Live in San Jose, Robert Honda, NBC Bay Area News.
Robert, thank you.
All right, folks. That is all I got for tonight. CC Pino, what happened to Michael Schellenberger? I thought he would run again. I think Schellenberger's just making too much freaking money, man. Making too much money on Substack. And I mean, dude's pulling in bank. So, I mean, why would he want to run for governor? I don't know. But yeah, good question. I don't know. I wonder why he isn't running. Probably because he's making too much damn money. That's what I would think anyway. All right, folks. Only had time to get into California topics tonight. So I'm going to cut it there. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I wanted to talk about. Sunday, I'm probably going to be talking about non-California issues. I'll talk about some California stuff towards the end of the episode, most likely, because there will be more California topics that pop up because we live in a crazy world. But there's some specific topics that I want to bring up. I want to talk some AI stuff, and I want to talk some Larry Ellison media empire stuff that he's building. So I think that's important to talk about. So that's what I'll be talking about on Sunday night at 6:00. And I am so stoked that all you guys joined in for my random Thursday stream. I'm going to be trying to do a stream every Wednesday from now on. I've been putting I've been putting a lot more work into this whole YouTube thing, and it's been paying off. And again, all of you new folks here, thank you so much for tuning in. I am very grateful that you would give me your time. So that is awesome. But yeah, plan on every Sunday for sure, 6:00. Wednesdays also 6:00. That's what I'm shooting for here. CC Pino, no, thank you for being here, sir. I appreciate you very much. All right, yep, that's all I got for tonight. But before we get out of here, we got to tell a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. And this is the sequel to that book, Chuck Norris Cannot Be Stopped. You guys know the rules. I open the book, my eyes go to a joke, and I read it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Though these jokes seem to be better than the original jokes in the original book. So I've laughed at every single one of them. So here we go. Chuck Norris joke of the evening. Chuck Norris once tried to masturbate, but it quickly dissolved into an arm wrestling match between his penis and his palm. And on that note, stay Cali Based.